Hello, welcome to episode 17 of the 4Cs for SAP Business One. Today we have a special guest with us, Aaron Armendariz from WiSys. And today we're going to be talking about the 3 Vs. And those are validation, visibility, and velocity. So Aaron, you and I, we work together very closely. Obviously, we have a partnership relationship with WiSys and been liking what you've been talking about lately with the 3 Vs. Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having us, Tyson. I appreciate it, and this is exciting to join you today.
So Aaron, you've been in the SAP Business One channel for 5 years now. Obviously, over that time, you've seen kind of, the net new customer. You've seen the customer that's been using SAP Business One for a while that then implements a WMS system. And I'm so happy to see that you've kind of, found this messaging that really kind of helps the SAP Business One customer understand why a WMS system is important and summarize it into 3 Vs and here you are on the 4Cs for SAP Business One podcast.
Yeah, and I took a lot of that from the third wave team, so I thank you for that as well.
In the channel, Aaron, I would imagine with the pandemic happening that you've been fairly busy over the last 2 years on helping streamline warehouse operations. I know we did a podcast just recently on jumpstarting your warehouse transformation, and thank you for joining us on that. And in the show notes, I'll have a link.
Good point. I know through the last couple years, dealing with a pandemic and work from home situations, it's become even more important to do the things we're going to talk about today, the validation, visibility, and velocity, but automating features to help you with limited staff. And we've learned all this through the last couple of years, that this is a lot of areas in companies that they need to improve in even before pandemic or even planning for the next disruption that they're going to see. I know we have some political issues we're dealing with today. So all of that will play into your company's, whether it's supply chain or if it's just general employment restrictions that you have today. So we are definitely seeing a lot of disruption in companies, and we're helping them work through that through their warehouse and through SAP Business One.
Amazing how many companies don't have a true handle on their inventory, and with a tight supply chain, we're seeing a lot of companies coming to us that are looking to implement SAP Business One, and visibility to the inventory and being able to have access to data that's actionable. So one of the big things that I'm hearing a lot kind of, from the decision makers that are choosing ERP solutions is we need actionable data that's reliable in real time. And I know that's one of the big things that we end up bringing WiSys in for is exactly that, is the real time and tightly integrated to SAP Business One. So for the listening audience that doesn't know about WiSys, why don't you give us just a little background in regards to what WiSys WMS can do for their organization and how it's integrated to SAP Business One?
Yeah, so I appreciate that, Tyson. WiSys is a warehouse management system that is integrated into SAP Business One using the DI API, and we're able to do real-time inventory movements in the native B1 tables of SAP. So we're no longer synchronizing or polling information at night. We're doing these transactions in real time, allowing our customers to get really good visibility into their data, right? We talk a lot about this digital transformation. And what we've seen in the past few years, it's no longer a digital transformation that we're talking about. Everybody, likes that buzzword. We're talking about digital now, digital first. The only way to survive in business today is to become a digital company. And WiSys provides those tools using wireless handheld devices, computers, to use barcode scanning to achieve that validation that we're looking for, and then giving you the visibility to do things faster and more efficient. So that's in a nutshell kind of what we do. We have plenty of other offerings that we can discuss, but we really want to focus today on this, the 3 Vs that we've talked about.
with multi-channel sales, the rise of the need for WMS has certainly increased, especially around e-commerce transactions where you might be selling across multiple different types of e-commerce channels, whether that's Wayfair or Amazon or Granger. There's a bunch of different platforms out there that you can be selling across, or even your own e-commerce store. The amount of touching of breaking a case down and selling and shipping each is a lot of times that change in model needs a warehouse kind of like a revamp around how the warehouse operates. And that's also a good time to kind of look at streamlining not just your operation, but streamlining how the data flows with everything.
Yeah, you brought up some good points there, and one of the things I'd like to kind of bring out that you talked about was some of the existing customers that you were talking about having lots of touches. The process that you were referring to there was the touch points and the number of times to match up with the PO and the goods receipt PO. The nice thing about WiSys is that you're not going to have to learn another language, right? If you understand SAP Business One, the naming conventions say the same, the terms are all the same. You're not going to have to retrain on a separate system our solution to work with SAP Business One. But the touches are what we're trying to increase with velocity, right? If you're doing things properly in the warehouse, if you're receiving goods, you're labeling them using barcode scanning to validate that that's the actual product you're receiving. Downstream, as you continue, when you do things accurately, you don't have any guesses of inventory. We like to call it, I think it's a boots on the floor, where I have the CFO going to take a look at the inventory stock levels in the warehouse. The things that we're talking about in the validation portion is trusting that information and making the system believable. So those touch points will reduce those, and then we'll make that validate that data against real live data in real time to make good business decisions about. And then the believability of that information is you're going to get that level of certainty that you didn't have without a warehouse management system today.
So tell us about the 3 V's and what they are and why they're important.
Yeah, that's great. The 3 V's are really a progression from one V to the next, right? We want to talk about we'll first start with validation, and we get to validation by automating processes in the warehouse using things like tablets, mobile devices, mobile computers. We're going to automate processes by using barcoding. We're going to be validating that and checking that against the information in SAP Business One based on the document. So we have forms on handhelds that will scan product when you receive, just like a goods receipt PO. We'll scan that product and validate that against real-time information that you've entered into SAP. So this is the most important step, and it's the first step, because without validation, the information that you're receiving is not believable or it's not certain, right? So we want to get that point of validation where we're confident in the information that's being put into the system. Once that's achieved, doing different putaways, movements, inventory transactions, you can really get a good control on what your inventory levels are, what your stock levels are, and where stuff is located in your warehouse. I can't tell you how many times I've spoken to a prospect or a customer that has lost out on large customers because they just don't have the locations in the warehouse where their products are stored or things are happening in the warehouse. It just doesn't happen. And that's when you get that visibility. So the next step is visibility. You by achieving the validation and understanding and knowing where things are in your warehouse, the company has the visibility into that data, and we can learn from that data and use that data to help us make good decisions. So, again, talking about leaving your desk and talk about bin locations in a warehouse, we're going to know with certainty where things are located, how things are moving, and where stuff is in the warehouse today. So visibility is going to allow you to make decisions about your business because you have certainty of where that product is at any given time. Once we have that information and we're making business decisions, now we can do some process analysis and business process assessment to allow you to make decisions to change the way you do things today. And a big problem with companies is they're just not ready for change. We talk about change as a major stopping point and a major hindrance to many companies because you've been doing stuff the same way for a long time, whether it's 10, 20 years, but this is the way we've done it. And this is how we, continue to do it. When we have the visibility and we see what's happening in the warehouse, we're able to change that to give us the velocity and the speed that's recommended for today's businesses. We all know the business models of the Amazons, the Wayfairs, the amount of stress put on companies to deliver that, whether it's an e-commerce or just end customer drop ships. There's a lot of stress put on companies now. And one way to grow your business and to scale up is to increase that velocity, to use the warehouse staff that you have today to their maximum capacity without adding more people or even doing more with less people. We're going to be able to make decisions to change the way you do business and be able to accomplish those goals that you have with some of the newer models like the Amazons and Wayfairs and Home Depots and that such. And we see a lot of that today. We see companies that are small mom and pops. They are using SAP Business One. They probably have a few users and doing things in the warehouse. They add a solution like WiSys. They're able to really get visibility into what they're doing. And then they can make those decisions to change their business to scale up as they want to add these new customers of theirs or vendors or partners. They will all relate to everything that you're doing with WiSys today.
And I can see how the 3 V's are a progression, and how it kind of all starts with that validation and being able to trust that digitally you can capture events in a real-time fashion. And as you're trapping those different pieces, that's going to give you the visibility to what's happening on the floor in a real-time fashion. And this is no longer going to be sitting in somebody's in basket on a piece of paper, waiting to be processed by somebody that may or may not be in the office on that particular day. Or the other one that I'm getting a lot of is we need to scan all of our documents because the receiving team is working from home. And it's like, well, what do you mean the receiving team's working from home? Isn't the receiving team on the receiving dock? I have a slide, Aaron, and I just brought it up, and I've seen you present this numerous times where there's these steps that I was just talking about, like the accounts receivable or the accounts payable department, or somebody that's doing the GL transactions of like the receipt from production or the goods issue because something got ruined. And in this fast-paced environment that most companies are in now, having visibility to the stock and knowing and trusting that stock is becoming really important because in this environment of back orders and also in the demand to the fulfillment that you were talking about, it becomes really important to be able to kind of go through that. So for the listening audience that's on YouTube, this slide will kind of help visualize what that's happening. And for those that aren't on the YouTube, if you're interested in getting a visual of this, send us a message and I can email you this slide, or jump over to our YouTube and have a look at it. But that capturing of all these different events that you were talking about is extremely important. And you're right about digital transformation. It used to be kind of the buzzword, and now it's like, if you're not a digital company, if you're not capturing this information in real time, your available stock online isn't correct. So you're either losing selling events because you haven't updated your website to what you actually have in stock because you haven't received it in yet. But the other side of it is a lot of times you might have a bunch of stock that has been received, but it hasn't been quality inspected yet. Being able to segment that stock out and know exactly the stock that you have And I think you called it boot rubber or shoe rubber. I call it management by observation. That's gone. Like the salespeople are working out of home offices. The sales channels now are totally different, where the sales rep needs to be able to trust the data that's in front of them on a screen versus being able to just walk in the back and see exactly what they have to be able to tell a customer whether or not they can fill that order. You need to be in front of that. And it needs to be real time. And if you got an order for 20,000 units and you only have 25,000 units, and you get another order for 20,000 units, and your inventory hasn't been updated on your website for available, now you have a problem, especially in this tight supply chain environment that we're living in right now.
You're absolutely correct on all those points, Tyson. And this is one of my favorite slides to go over and visualize here that it's a pretty large warehouse in this picture here. We're taking away the responsibility from those front of the office workers, right? We're putting it to where the action happens. You're doing those transactions with people that are touching the material and the items, and it's really good because you're not adding that extra touch or extra step in the process. But one of the things I do want to talk about here is you're looking at a larger warehouse. Digital transformation and digital now can happen in a smaller scale. With many WiSys customers, we have customers that have 2, maybe 3 users, and they're a small company. They're starting out, but they want to be at the forefront of technology and using digital instruments today, right? So you don't have to be the behemoth to transform digitally. You can be a smaller company with 1 or 2 users doing all the functions that you're seeing here, but getting yourself to that point of we're doing everything where the action takes place, where the movement happens, that first touch point. Nothing's more satisfying than receiving product on a PO and validating that solution, validating those items against the ERP, SAP Business One today. So, not just to scare everybody with, this is only for big companies. This is for everybody that wants to become more accurate, faster, and fulfill those. There's small companies that do e-commerce. That's their main business, and they are technically a small company, but they're doing high volumes. Just like you mentioned, small companies can do 40, 50,000 orders on a Black Friday or Cyber Monday. You need technology to help you fulfill those orders. So size of a company doesn't necessarily mean that you're required to have a very big investment. With WiSys as well, we've learned that small companies tend to scale. By using technology, they will naturally grow larger. This will help them move into a larger. This will actually help them become a better company so that they have the ability to make decisions to scale larger. So we have customers with 2 scanners, and I have customers with 202 scanners, depending on their needs and the investment that they want to have. You can take parts of this, right? You don't need to start doing everything at once. If your main concern is inventory control and stocking and putting things in the right place, you could start with that. If you have the biggest concern that you have is fulfilling orders, accurately fulfilling orders to these e-commerce customers or big box stores, we could start in that shipping area, the picking and the packing. Because WiSys is integrated, we don't have to take a bite of the whole apple. We could take portions and still use the same data throughout the rest of my business to accomplish these goals. So you could take phased approach to a WiSys and a technology transformation or a digital transformation. Starting now is what I feel is the best way to get you through that digital transformation. It's that where we don't want to have to do the same everything at once. You can definitely phase approach WMS into your company solutions.
That's a great point about the just starting with the receiving, if that's where your pinch point is in your process, and just validating that information and getting the inventory into the system faster is going to help you. Everybody's growth journey is different as a company, and every company will do something different, and sometimes some of the things that you do might be a strategic advantage, and you might have processes that work for you, and you don't need to replace it because, as you said, it's kind of like a la carte. You can pick, where to start and how much of it that you want to do. The
Yeah,
other
if the data is coming from SAP Business One and you are in real time integrated, those different portions that you wish to remain, a lot of people have industry regulations or industry rules that they need to follow, that's just not an area they can go for first or attack first. That data is the same data that they're going to realize in a different department of their company.
Now, that being said, one of the things that I do like about WiSys is the flexibility around being able to build out custom screens. And obviously, this isn't a demo today; it's more talking about those things. But if you are looking at streamlining and realizing the 3 V's in your organization, those are things to think about. Is does this fit my business, or can it fit my business? I talk to companies all the time, Aaron, and they're like, oh, we just signed on a new trading partner, and they have these requirements, and we're starting to take orders April 1st, and it's like March 11th when we're recording this podcast, and it's like, okay, so in 20 days you need to be able to meet the packing requirements, the labeling requirements, and the order processing requirements of getting the orders into the system. How are you going to pull this off? And a lot of times what I see, Aaron, is, if you're a growing company, you're going to take that customer and you're going to make it work. And sometimes that might be a short-term block where you have to manually do these things in order to make that happen, but you need to be able to scale that eventually, and know that these problems are solvable, and it's not insurmountable. It's just a matter of identifying the areas where you need to address those 3 V's, and know that there's tools out there within the SAP Business One ecosystem that can help do that. And that's why we started the 4Cs podcast. And that's why we're inviting somebody like Aaron onto the podcast to talk about WiSys and the product, because there is a better way. And this isn't something that is a limitation to your growth. And just because you're doing things the way that you're doing them right now, I'm always available to talk to you and help you look at your processes and look at the requirements of your future processes and find the right solution for you. And talking about this digital first, and what a digital first organization looks like, I thank you for bringing the 3 V's to the SAP Business One ecosystem, because this is an area where I talk about connections and communication and the core and control. And when you're talking about systems that are connected to SAP Business One, you need to make sure that all of those other pieces of your business are all keeping up in lockstep. And these 3 V's certainly address and identify the areas where the SAP Business One customer needs to look.
We talk about the 3 V's of validation, visibility, and velocity. What we try to do here at WiSys is we try to make you think about some of the change that you're going to go through. And one of the biggest struggles that most companies have is with change. And the 3 V's will get those juices flowing and help you decide if change is ready for you. Are you doing the items that we talked about in the 3 V's? If you're ready for change, and you've recognized some of the areas in the 3 V's that you could improve, WiSys and Third Wave can help you do that.
And you mentioned the word change. In episode 13, we covered off the topic of change and how that's an area that the SAP Business One customer generally has to address in their growth journey. And I think we even had a quote like, change is the only constant. In episode 15, I covered off the 2021-2022 what the pillars were in 2021 and what the indicators are in 2022. And in 2022, I brought this slide up for anybody that's on YouTube, but in 2022, what I'm kind of seeing out there is that organizations are looking to streamline and automate back office and their operations supply chain. So the 3 V's really kind of correlate into that. And the other side of that is really kind of, if you look at the indicators on this slide, we kind of cover off all of them when we're looking at the 3 V's. We're going to streamline operations. We're going to have better monitoring of our inventory and supply chain because we're going to be in real time of what's happening. We're going to be able to realize our landed costs faster because it's going to be in the system faster, which is going to allow you to kind of look at the pricing strategies and those types of things. The data normalization. So if we have accurate, reliable data that's validated, that's going to really allow us to trust the data, which is going to allow organizations to spend their time, instead of validating and dealing with the fires that come with not having the right information in the system and the proper velocity that matches your organization. You're going to spend all that time dealing with the issues that are operational issues versus looking forward into where you can take the organization. And also, I talk about HR and keeping employees engaged, empowered, employed. So what greater way to kind of show people that you are investing in your business and you are trusting and empowering your employees by giving them the tools to help them help your organization do more. And the 3 V's really kind of help us do that, Aaron.
Yeah, it's exactly well said. The 3 V's, all of these items that you're showing here are derivative of successfully accomplishing items in that 3 V structure. So, nothing's more important than these 5 indicators that you've shown for 2022 here. They directly relate to WMS and that digital first transformation.
One thing that is not on my 2022 slide that I did have on the 2021, but is still really prevalent is cloud. We're seeing a lot of our customers still wanting to go to cloud, Aaron. And I thank you for coming on and talking about the 3 V's.
I appreciate the time, and hopefully we were able to give you a little insight on WiSys and how we can be a guide throughout your company and warehouse. And thanks again, Tyson.
We really truly enjoy our partnership with you, and I know our customers do as well. So thank you for your time, and thank you for talking about the 3 V's with us. The listening audience, thank you for listening. Episode 17. Wow. So until next time, take care and stay connected.